Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible force that sustains us in life's most delicate moments, when everything seems about to fall apart? Today, I'm going to share a moving story that reveals precisely this presence. This miracle that often escapes our eyes but profoundly touches our faith. Prepare your heart, because what you're about to hear can transform how you view divine protection and the resilience of faith. For the testimony unfolding before you is a true reminder that, even in the ruins, hope can flourish. But before we begin, we'd like to ask you to write in the comments section the names of all the people, friends, and family members you know need a special prayer. We'll include them in our main prayer with the rosary, asking Our Lady to intercede for each of them, with the certainty that faith moves mountains. It happened in a small, quiet town in Texas, where faith was evident on every corner, especially in the vibrant Catholic community. There, the traditional procession in honor of Our Lady was eagerly awaited annually, an event that brought together entire families, young and old, united by the same spirit of devotion. This procession was not just a parade, but a profound act of faith, a public testimony of love and trust in the Virgin Mary. The route took the faithful through narrow streets, decorated for the occasion, and culminated in a particularly significant moment: the crossing of an ancient wooden bridge over a small stream, a stretch that seemed to connect not only the city's banks but also the hearts of the devotees to their ancestral faith, marking a high point of reverence before approaching the main church for the final Mass. On the grand day of the procession, the air was charged with an indescribable energy. Hundreds of people gathered in the central square, dressed in their finest clothes and carrying flowers and rosaries, their eyes shining with devout anticipation. The sun bathed the scene in a soft light, and the singing of Marian hymns echoed throughout the valley, rising along with the sweet aroma of candles and the murmur of prayers. With each step, the mass of faithful advanced in an orderly and solemn fashion, with the imposing image of Our Lady, richly ornamented and carried by men of robust faith, at the head of the procession, representing the hope and protection they sought in her intercession. The sound of the clashing rosaries and the gentle rhythm of the footsteps created a symphony of devotion that filled the souls of all present, solidifying the community in an unbreakable bond of belief. As the procession approached the old wooden bridge, anticipation grew. Known for its advanced age and the structure that creaked slightly under the feet of the few daily passers-by, the bridge now became the stage for a number of people that far surpassed its original capacity, with every fiber of its wood feeling the weight of faith and the crowd. Many of the older residents remembered when the bridge was first built, and some whispered concerns about its strength, but the urgency of faith and the beauty of the moment seemed to dispel any fears, propelling the crowd forward. The first group of faithful, those carrying banners and flags, had already crossed, and now the main mass, including those carrying the sacred image of Our Lady, began to tread the planks that, until then, had supported countless processions, but never with such intensity of devotion and human weight. It was precisely when the image of Our Lady stood at the very center of the structure that the first alarming signs appeared, a harbinger that made many people's hearts stop for an instant. A loud, dry crack echoed through the air, followed by a deep groan from the wood, as if the bridge itself were protesting under the overload and continued pressure. The planks began to visibly give way in some spots, swaying alarmingly, and a subtle panic began to spread among the nearest faithful, their faces contorted in a mixture of fright and disbelief. In the blink of an eye, the bridge, once a symbol of passage and unity, abruptly broke, the old timbers giving way with a deafening crash, hurling the pilgrims, the image of Our Lady, and the pieces of the collapsing structure into the waters of the stream that ran below. Instant chaos ensued. Screams of shock and despair mingled with the sound of churning water and the friction of disintegrating planks, as people were thrown downward amidst the tangle of arms and legs, the scene turning into a blur of disorder. For those watching from afar, the image was one of imminent tragedy, a multitude falling helplessly, and the worst was awaited with icy anguish, a terrifying silence following the initial noises as the dust and splashes settled. The scene unfolding there seemed to foretell a catastrophic outcome, with the absence of a single supporting bridge over the stream, leaving hundreds of worshippers helpless in the midst of the void, abandoned to gravity and the uncertain fate of the waters. However, amidst the panic and the settling dust, a surprising and inexplicable event began to unfold, defying all logic and human expectation. Although the bridge had completely collapsed, the faithful, including the men carrying the image of Our Lady, seemed to have been cushioned in their fall in a most unlikely way. Many fell into parts of the stream that, inexplicably, turned out to be much shallower than expected for that spot, while others were sustained by larger fragments of the bridge itself that miraculously rearranged themselves in midair, forming a sort of makeshift bed that protected them from the severe impact. The image of Our Lady, in particular, not only remained intact without a scratch, but also appeared to rest gently on the water, or on a bed of debris that had formed directly beneath it, as if it had been deposited with reverence, and none of those in its immediate vicinity suffered serious injuries. It was a scene that defied physics, a moment of pure amazement where the foretold tragedy dissolved into a silent testimony of intervention. In the moments that followed, the tension gradually turned to relief, and then to collective amazement. There were no deaths, no serious injuries among the hundreds of people who fell. Small children, the elderly, all emerged from the water or rose from the debris, stunned, yes, but unharmed, their expressions alternating between shock at the event and gratitude for the inexplicable escape. The community joined in an immediate rescue operation, and as one by one they were helped out of the stream, the tale of miracle began to echo from mouth to mouth, almost in reverent whispers, before turning into a moving celebration. Looking at the disintegrated bridge and then at the image of Our Lady, unharmed and majestic, the realization that divine protection had manifested itself in an undeniable way touched every heart, reinforcing a faith that had just been tested and emerged stronger than ever. It's fascinating how we often only realize the depth of protection in our lives when we encounter the unexpected, something that knocks us off our feet, isn't it? Think about it. How many of us have crossed bridges in our journeys that seemed solid but carried invisible risks within them? It could be a career decision that suddenly fell apart, a family plan that didn't go as expected, or even a health challenge that caught us by surprise, leaving us feeling as if we were hanging by a thread. In these moments, even without realizing it, there is a hand that sustains us, a force that acts even before the worst happens, preventing greater falls and directing our steps toward paths that, to human eyes, seem impossible to recover, but which are part of a much larger plan, a vigilance that never sleeps, keeping us safe from dangers we don't even fully grasp. The experience of those faithful who saw the bridge collapse beneath their feet invites us to reflect on the transience of material things and the constancy of faith. How often in our own lives do we build our hopes and dreams on foundations that suddenly reveal themselves to be fragile, crumbling and leaving us in what seems like a valley of desolation? Think of the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, or the illness of a loved one. These are moments of collapse that confront us with vulnerability, with the feeling of having been thrown into an abyss without a safety net. Yet, it is precisely in these ruins, when everything around us seems to crumble, that we are invited to look up, to seek the rock that is unshakable. And it is there, deep within our souls, that we often experience the inexplicable peace and sustenance that transform an imminent fall into a living testimony of resilience and divine grace, revealing that even in apparent destruction, there is a rebirth of something stronger and more resilient. Beyond individual protection, there is immense power in shared faith, in the union of hearts in prayer, which echoes in the story of those who were on the bridge. Have you ever stopped to think about the strength we gain when we connect with fellow believers? When we realize we are not alone in our battles? Just like the faithful who supported each other after the fall, we are called to build and strengthen the bridges that unite us in community. When we face a trial, be it financial, emotional, or spiritual, having someone to lend a hand, to pray with us, or to remind us of God's promises, is a true miracle in itself. It is in this synergy of hearts that the impossible becomes real, that pain is shared and alleviated, and that the faith of one sustains that of another, transforming a moment of collective helplessness into a powerful manifestation of communion and intercession that elevates all those involved. The deeper message of this event challenges us to look beyond the visible, to trust in a plan that exceeds our understanding, especially when our own paths seem to fragment. Think about your own journey. How many times have you meticulously planned something, invested time and energy, only to see the bridge to your projects unexpectedly collapse? In these moments, our initial reaction may be despair and disillusionment, questioning why. But it is precisely when we let go of the need to control everything and hand over the helm of our lives to the one who can do all things, that the unexpected happens. Just as a new and safe crossing was revealed in the form of a miracle for those faithful, faith teaches us that the collapse of one path can be the opening to another, much more solid and blessed, revealing that God's designs are often manifested in our weakness, so that His glory may be even more evident. This story reminds us that, in our own lives, we face bridges that seem unstable, challenges that threaten to collapse, and situations that bring us to the brink of despair. It is in these moments that our faith is most tested, but it is also in these moments that the divine presence reveals itself most intensely, guiding our steps, even when the path seems crumbling. Like those faithful in Texas, we are called to persevere in daily prayer, to have greater faith and to cling to hope, forgiving those who offend us and seeking peace in our hearts. For it is in it that we find strength for adversity and the ability to be instruments of conversion for those who do not yet know the truth of God's love. With each rosary, with each sermon, we strengthen this invisible bridge that connects us to heaven. And remember, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful in its effects. Therefore, I invite you again to share in the comments, right now, the names of those who most need the light of prayer. We will include them in our prayer with the rosary, trusting that each supplication will be answered. What does this story of the miracle on the wooden bridge evoke in you? What are your thoughts on the power of faith and divine protection? We'd love to hear your comments and insights on Our Lady's power in our lives. Leave your opinion and share this message of hope. If this video touched your heart and inspired you, don't forget to like it, which is very important to us, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our messages of faith and light. May God and Our Lady richly bless you and your entire family. Amen.